Hello, so time for another live stream. Hopefully a notification goes out when you get on. Don't forget to like the stream because that seems to help them get shared quite a lot. At the moment, it's been quite good for them getting shared, as in you get a decent amount of people on within the first minute or two of them going live, even if I've not said to loads of people what time they're going to be on. So this is the Cobra again, this time without the cover on it. So you can see what it looks like without. I won't put all the night vision stuff on it today, but yeah, that's what it looks like. Sort of without the cover. I quite like the look of this without the cover, but I suppose it does look a bit more similar to the ECH without the cover. I don't think there will be a World War III. So hello to everybody, and yeah, don't forget to like the stream if you're just coming on now, because it seems the more people that like them, the more YouTube shares them. To be honest, I think even dislikes help. It's just very strange of it that, you know, if people watch and they don't click like or whatever, it seems like YouTube's like, oh, the video must not be very interesting. Don't bring up politics, anybody. I'm just going to warn you that straight from the beginning, because unfortunately people always want to like go, oh, let's talk about some war somewhere. So what I'm doing, I'm keeping a safe-ish distance from it. What does this one reckon it is? Oh, yeah, just slightly above background good, although this isn't a good Geiger. I was just seeing how quickly I could get the therapy to clock up micro sieverts. There isn't an Israeli mask in the background. I don't know what you're looking at. There's not an Israeli mask there. You're looking at that. That's not Israeli. That's Nazi German, like the complete opposite of Israel. What do you mean M50 is airworthy? Do you mean airsoft? If you mean those shitty airsoft copies of M50s, they're not M50s. You can like pretty clearly tell from looking at if it's a real M50 or not, just because of how the rubber looks. What, the Volksmask 44, VM44, it's a last-ditch Nazi German mask. I have no idea what you're on about then if you're saying yes and no to the same thing I just said. All right, Peach. So yeah, what numbers are we clocking up over there at the moment? 7862, 7863. Do I have enough spare batteries at the moment to run my CDV 700? That'll be interesting. And that's here. Oh, that made the camera go out of focus, picking that up for some reason. I have no idea why. Alright, I need 4 batteries for this, don't I? Ideally of the same type. Also, I've not done it with mine. Yeah, thank you, Peach. I've told people about 2 or 3 times at the moment to like it. But if you've got a Victorine model, I've not done this because it's a stupid thing, but just to warn people, see the one that says, I'm just going to turn it down even lower. See on there's the calibration and the high voltage switch. Most only have the calibration one there. Apparently, if you turn high voltage too high, you can literally blow this up. Oh, not dramatically blow it up, but fuck the unit by blowing a load of circuitry on it. So yeah, if you've got one of these, don't do that. I just thought I'd point that out before somebody does it, if they've got one. And they're like, oh, what does that switch do? I'll put it all the way down. So there's a suicide switch on this, you know, like you can literally turn it further than the unit can cope with you turning it, which is kind of funny, but at the same time, that would be fucking annoying if you spent loads of money on one. Oh, I have got 4 D cells down there. Hang on. They're rechargeable D cells, so I don't know if it will draw enough power from them because they're 1.2 volts. But I just wanted to have it on and ticking as a kind of just nice little thing. So MSA Millenniums are a bit. I'm trying to think of what the right word is for it. But the problem is with the Millennium is that I think it's the rubber they made them out of. They're not very durable in that regard. I was going to say, yeah, they definitely have retrofitted a battery slot on this. Because, yeah, look at the date on the battery holder. Hang on. If it focuses. Doesn't want to focus, does it? Regardless, it says 1989. And obviously, if you look at when the Geiger counter was originally built, Wow. Anyway, it's a 6B, so it's from like the early 60s. Anyway, it doesn't actually have a manufacture date on this one. But these can be a bit annoying getting the batteries in these sometimes, because you don't want to put too much force on like some old mechanical bits, but you know, when the battery just does not want to go in its holder. There we go. And then that one, and all of a sudden just goes in easily. So no idea why, but maybe you have to just get the angle completely right to get the batteries in. Well, I've never heard of Pearl Harbor with a U, but Pearl Harbor's in Hawaii. Being somehow weirdly defeated by a D-cell battery holder. Is it look the rechargeable D-cells like ever so slightly bigger? There's that one. I mean, they sit tight in this one at least when you finally get them in, which is good, but I'm so used to some battery holders where it's just really annoying to get batteries in. There we go, it's that one. I'll put the clips on to hold them in a minute. Oh, sounds like it's powering up. Let's just turn him off a second because I don't want to get an electric shock. Yeah, I mean, see, some places are still using CDV 700s apparently, hype, and I mean even in America, because like FEMA did that thing, didn't they, where they made the updated tubes for them so they can still keep using them. But in terms of, fuck's sake, in terms of yeah, when like civil defense was officially disbanded in the US, I don't know, but I know like lots of things still keep them going for longer than that. Because, like I said, I've got my CDV 715 has like a recalibrated in 93 sticker on it. Yeah, I assume it's just literally because it's cheap if they're about to get somebody to just now and again put a new capacitor on or whatever. Yeah, I was just going to turn this on for the classic Geiger noise because I've got the Terra P running in the background. But again, these aren't built as tough as Soviet devices, so you'd have to be a bit careful with them. Right, there we go. Cool. Hopefully those IMD2s are good, but I don't know what the capacity or units they use or whatever is on them. So here we go. Right, is this guy working? Let's put the speaker on. Yeah, sounds like he's working. Yeah, good. So this is working. Oh, get that in tight. So yeah, background is pretty good here, as you can see, assuming that the wire didn't just come loose. Yep. We're not even at 0.1 of a milliröntgen per hour, so that's good. It's got both mesh and padding. I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, if I take it over here, different story. Well, first you need a Geiger counter that can read alpha radiation, because a lot can't. But yes, in theory, if you've got a strong enough alpha source, you can max one out. Completely depends on the counter, though. Yeah, if you're wanting to know what the inner liner looks like, both pads and mesh. It's not one or the other. And then let's put him up to times 10. Sorry, times 100. That's just because at the moment the probe isn't too close to anything. I mean, if I move one of these bits closer. Yeah. Although, I'm pretty sure he'll max out if I get, where is it? How high will this get it to go? It's only getting to about 5 what's it from that millirontgen, but I don't know if it's calibrated right for these batteries. That's the only thing. Anyway, if you're wondering what I was doing over there, was torture testing this. If you look at the accumulative dose for that, 4 years worth of background on there. It'll start going back to detecting normal levels now. There we are. I'll sit down for the chat in a minute and not get distracted by it, but let's just try a bit of radium on there. And that's the gamma reading for anybody wondering. See, the probe isn't open. Anyway, I'll stop playing with that before we all die. But yeah, I've got too much gamma radiation now for the CDV 700 to cope with it when I want to. So that's an interesting concept, isn't it? It depends, Ghost Jesus, how long they stick around it. Because the thing is with the CDV 700, it only goes up to 50 millirontgen anyway, which is really low for a Geiger counter. Sadly, not at all, Marcus. My day job is cleaning, basically. So you could say it's got a bit to do with chemicals, as in now and again I have to explain to people why it's not a good idea to mix certain chemicals. It was kind of depressing when we had our COSH training not very long ago. If you don't know what that is, it's control of substances hazardous to health. Because I was one of the few people there who could answer questions like, why don't you mix these chemicals? You know, like, why do you have to dilute a chemical in a certain way? And I thought some of that should have been pretty straightforward, kind of common sense, but apparently not. I suppose, as Mark Twain said, common sense isn't all that common. But, you know, here I am playing with radium, so I'm just going to do myself in another way, I think. But it's very addictive playing with Geiger counters, isn't it? But yeah, so far, as I've said, this is still easily my best counter. Do you mean the SHMS or SHMS, Tyler? I don't have it handy to get out at the moment, but all right, thank you very much, Yannick. If you've got a Discord ID, post it in the chat and I can invite you to the server for donators, because anybody that donates on Patreon or a Super Chat gets an invite. But thank you very much. I'll be doing a full review of this soon, the Therapy, because so far this is definitely by far the best Geiger counter I've ever used. When the one hype sending arrives, it might be that might be a good competition for this one. With that one hype, did you know if the PLA one, what was the lowest reading it would display? Yeah, so if you've got a Discord ID, yeah, just post it in the chat, Yannick. Don't know if you're saying about please the review of this one, the Therapy. I've got an M98, but not an M95 in terms of gas masks. Was it the there was some older Chinese masks like that, DE. But there could have been a few sort of Warsaw Pack style masks, you know, or like Shim style helmet masks that had the extended thing, because the Polish hospital one, the SR1's like that as well. But yeah, because what I'm interested in is what the lowest reading is that People's Liberation Army Geiger counter would do, because obviously I know it's one that goes into the centigrade range like the British Plessy one is, but I think with the British Plessy meter that will only start at 0.1 centigrade. So you need 10 millirontgen per hour to even start noticing it on it. Right, so if we go into sieverts, right, 14 microsieverts. So let's look at background here, and this is reading it with the beta window open, so it'd be a bit lower if I put the beta window on. So 1 second. This is definitely my most accurate digital counter and the fastest response times on it as well. So if you're around 14 microsieverts constantly, that would be very bad, because that is much you know, much higher than average. 037 is higher than average, but that's just because I've got a lot of this stuff out at the moment on the floor. But it's far enough away. It's not high, you know, dangerous during the stream. But, you know, it'd be lower than that when I've got that stuff put away. Hello, I'm Sniper. But yeah, 14 microsieverts is a hell of a lot if it's your background dose. 14 microsieverts is basically nothing if it's, you know, from a source of something, if that makes sense. So to give you an example, let's have a look actually, because I might have some handy. What a bit of Fiestaware gives off. I do have some handy, hang on. Because this will update pretty fast to the Fiestaware, because it won't overload on it. But I'll show a thorium lamp mantle as well. And we'll do one little chunk of Fiestaware just so you get an idea. So a thorium lamp mantle, if we have it flat and put it on there, what's that going to get to? 5.31, 5.5. So yeah, a single thorium lamp mantle just like that gives off enough beta and gamma radiation to get to about 5 microsieverts. Now I'm pretty sure if I fold the lamp mantle a couple of times, or just kind of do that with it, if I put the lamp mantle over it like that there, I'm pretty sure that would get a higher reading in a minute. Might require me to just put my thumb there to keep it from, yeah, there we go. But the point is, you know, that's just coming from a little thorium lamp mantle. Now, if I get a bit of Fiestaware, like, oh, it's a little bit of pottery, I think that'll go even higher. Yeah, so what's that, 17 microsieverts at the moment? 16. But yeah, the point is just even little bits of Fiestaware. Do that. Like, the thing is, right, is it depends as well. I'm just going to mention this. If you, depending on how far you want to go down the obsessive road of playing with radioactive materials, there's a length where some people consider Fiestaware to be dangerously hot. I think I've moved well on since then. I don't think they actually use magnesium in these. They glow like magnesium when you burn them, but I think that's just what the thorium did. That's why they don't use it anymore and they use other chemicals rather than just using thorium ore. But yeah, in terms of I was going to say, in terms of, like you were saying before, 14 microsieverts. 14 microsieverts is a lot if it's your background dose. Like, I'd be very worried if your house was 14 microsieverts. But, you know, if you put a Geiger counter on a check source and it was 14 microsieverts, you know, what's the worry? If you haven't heard, Tyler, I'm already going now. I'm just needing to actually find a place that does a reliable holiday trip there. Well, holiday, but you know what I mean. Historical kind of holiday. Yep. Well, there's already one on it, Martin, on my channel, but there will be a second one on the Kujou, which is a dedicated review of the Kujou. Because the other video was where I just showed it inside an actual other video. Ah, that's cool. I've got some thorium welding rods as well, Stefan or Stephen, but they're not very hot at all. Like, you need to put loads together to even notice it being above background. But I know thorium is a good metal for use. Isn't it because thorium's a very pure metal or something? Or if you mix it into an alloy, it makes the metal like very pure or something. But yeah, I mean, thorium's one of those things where for certain applications they no longer use it because it's radioactive. But thorium isn't really scary in terms of radiation. Because even where I've got a load of thorium dioxide or trioxide, whatever they call it, like thorium ash, even all of that put together isn't that hot. It's hot on the single lamp mantle, but, you know, it's not like uranium or something like that where it goes, ooh, you know. Wooden stabby thing. There's a katana if you're looking at that. That's the sheath of the katana. The night vision's on the floor at the moment, like not on the floor like where it's getting damaged. It's like all folded up and put neatly away. Well, yeah, Ghost Jesus, because as I said before, it's more affordable than housing. So if it's a case of you can buy a bunker and then might have to spend a few grand, restoring it, and that's like 25 grand starting price, whereas a house would be 200, 300 grand for a shit one. I'd rather just get a bunker. What you're looking at there? If you're looking at there, that's the orange riot armor. If you're looking at that, the French bright orange one. I said there's a katana there. There is for certain Czech sources, Daniel. So this is where it gets weird, because as I've complained about this before, the UK law on it seems to be not written by somebody into physics. So the legislator who's written the law is somebody who's basically looked up what nuclear materials can be used to make a nuclear bomb or something like that, not how harmful they are or whatever else. So you can find a very complicated list if you do loads and loads of Googling, because it took me ages to find it, of what you're allowed in different quantities. And they don't explicitly tell you what the quantities are. They basically say how many barracules or barracuels or whatever it is. And it doesn't explicitly say if it's one Czech source that can be that high or multiple. I'd assume it'd be multiple, because otherwise you could just buy lots and lots of them separately. And then it's, you better not build a bomb out of that. That would be very, very naughty. But yeah, so the UK law is very strange on it, because americinium is put like on the same, what's in smoke alarms is put on the same list as things like cesium-137 and cobalt-60. Now, you're allowed these things, just not into certain quantities. So things like radium-226, which is most of the things I've been using on Geigers recently, radium-226 is not actually on that list at all. Because whoever wrote the list said, oh, radium's not harmful, even though radium is horribly harmful. It's just that because you can't make a nuclear bomb with radium, it's not on the list because it's not fissile. So that's the word I was looking for, fissile materials. So stuff like uranium is on there, although I think it's when uranium is in yellow cake form or like more purified that it's on there, not just simply owning, like uranium pitch blend. And then it's stuff like americinium, cobalt-60, cesium-137, strontium-90's on there, but the strontium-90 amount is huge on there because it will be fissile. Yeah, I've already done a video on the French right armor if you want about that. Wow, if you mean a Mark 1 helmet, I've done a video on the Mark 2 helmet, but I don't have an American-made version of a British Mark 1 helmet, but that's a British helmet. The when you say the Doughboy helmet, you mean the Brody helmet, don't you? As in the Mark 1 helmet. So yeah, Daniel, to answer your question, there's legal limits on certain radionuclides, but not others. And there's a bloke on YouTube who has a video of his radioactive museum, and he's in the UK. And what he's got puts me to shame. And when I say that, it's also, you might say, what he's got would scare the shit out of you, and you'd hope he'd live nowhere near you in case he accidentally contaminates the entire area. But this guy has, like hundreds and hundreds of aircraft dials, hundreds and hundreds of like luminous markers and, alarm clocks of radium paint and stuff like that, just on shelves and shelves. Probably like several kilos of uranium ore and, like various other radioactive ores. And he said before, when he's had to deal with the police, they say, as long as he's knowledgeable on it and he's not, like trying to poison people, they really don't care. Because, again, it comes down to, are you making a bomb with it? No, okay. And again, the UK, I think, is restrictive enough when it comes to laws. I don't want them to start to restrict, people's fun even more because they're going, oh, you might do something harmful with that. I mean, our own government can't be trusted with nuclear material. Just if you look up what they do at Sellafield, dumping it in the sea, saying that, if you want polonium, strontium-90, anything like that, and you want to get it for free, take a holiday to Seascale, go with a Geiger counter and a shovel. You can get as much nuclear material as you want for free. Not that the government would want you to do that, but I'm just saying, if they dump it in the public places, you might as well go get it from them. Is there any kind of glue like PVA you can mount to a thin sort of layer, and then use that to repair the PBF. You could probably get rubber repair kits that would do it, like rubber patches. I'll try and do a video on it at some point, Marcus. It's not exactly on the priority list to get pliers out and do it with a GSR, but there are photos online showing exactly how you can do it if you really want to. I don't know if you can hear all the rain outside, but it's raining bloody heavily tonight. It's been raining for like the last few hours. So it's going to get even muddier outside. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Although I think at the moment, most of the people currently on are the people who've already liked it. So as far as I'm aware, at the moment, I've got 2 Geiger counters left to come, and I think they are actual Geiger counters rather than ion chamber units. And then I'll do a complete collection video on all of my Geiger counters and radiation detecting equipment, and that will probably be quite a long video. In what sense, Marcus? If it's in the sense of what happens if you try and breathe through it, quite often what will happen if you can physically put a filter on it is it's just the air pressure isn't right. So where I've got this weird Sieb Gorman mask that's designed for an airline, but it lets you put filters on it, what will happen is the mask will just keep fogging up because every time you exhale, the air pressure isn't high enough to open the valve to let the air out. Because, you know, it's meant to constantly always have air flowing into it. What was in the wind scale fire only anonymous, or Sellafield doing the nuclear dumping? Because that's 2 separate things. But the wind scale fire, there's a very good YouTube video, well, a documentary that's been uploaded to YouTube called Our Reactor is on Fire. And there's quite a few documentaries on British nuclear dumping policy. What is what about Spitfire? At the moment, we're talking about Sellafield and nuclear waste. I was hoping Weapon Collector might be on tonight, but maybe he's not at the PC. Or maybe he's out, I don't know. That's loosening it, isn't it? I don't want to loosen it, I want to tighten it. But yeah, Our Reactor is on Fire is a very good documentary, and it's a very critical one because it talks about how prior to even the wind scale fire, you know, they would contaminate in loads of the local environment because the stuff would come up the chimneys, and then like cesium and strontium and all that would come back down on the fields and like people's houses, and the government covered it up. And like when some scientists went around with Geiger counters, found how horribly contaminated the area was, they had their Geiger counters confiscated and were told to mind their own business if they knew what was good for them. I'm in neither a basement or upstairs. I'm on the ground floor, Tyler. I've got a copy of an M1 steel pot. I think it's probably a Danish copy or like a Danish, you know, bought one from another country. So it's not an authentic US one, but it is an M1, you know, thing because so many nations use the M1 under license or illegally. Mine's either a Dutch one or a Danish one. I'm not sure. It's like a grey colour. Let me see if I can work it out from Googling imaging them. Dutch M1 helmet, and then let me do Danish M1 helmet and see if I can work out which one it is. Right, looking at, I don't think it's an Austrian one. Let's carry on looking down. It's not a Belgian one because that looks too well made. The Danish one It's got the plastic liner for it, like the proper M1 does. It could be the Danish M48, although there's different Danish variants as well looking at this. So this is confusing. The buckles look a bit different on the Dutch one, but that doesn't mean anything, does it? Because if they had loads of factories making them, they're not going to necessarily be identical. So I guess looking at it, I think mine is the Danish one, looking at this, like how the straps look and everything, but that's not even totally necessarily true. I'll get it out again for a video at some point, and I can get somebody to look at all the markings on it, and somebody might recognize a marking on it. But I would think, without going to get it, I'm pretty sure it's the Danish one. But yeah, as I said, the problem is if it's a clone of another helmet. I've got 2 C7 gas masks. They're pretty rare, although I think there's more turning up on the market now again. Also some weirdly retrofitted C7 masks where the British nuclear industry used them for a while, apparently, just with like new filters glued to them. So I'll try and pick some of those up if they turn up on the market. I've got an XM28 because they're rare in the UK, but they're not rare in America, really. Well, not that rare. But yeah, they would be the rarest masks I own. Just seeing if I could get this strap any tighter, but unfortunately, I think that's as tight as it will go that I've got it. So that's the only thing with this, is the only bit that is a bit too big for me with this, it seems, is the chin strap. It's not awful, but it is a bit too big. This bit's perfect. So for my head circumference, it's good. It's just the chin bit's a bit... I'd need my head to be shaped more like that to fit this chin. Okay. Yeah, the Danish one I've got has got a really... If it is the Danish one, it's got a really bad buckle. Like to the point where... it's like, why did they even bother with this buckle? Why didn't they have a bit of string to tie together? No, don't use a PMK1 filter. They had asbestos in as well. Apparently, there was only one type of Soviet filter that didn't, which was like the BTK. Not BTK, that's Bind Torture Kill, isn't it? It's old Dennis Rader. So yeah, not good old Dennis. But they did have BFK or something. They had a filter named that, which was an industrial filter, which was like charcoal only, as in no particulate layers other than like a bit of paper on each side of the charcoal. But for the most part, if it's from the Soviet Union, don't use the filter. If it's from the Russian Federation before like 2010, don't use the filter. Well, thankfully, Ghost Jesus, this is why I don't give out my address to people to send me stuff, except people I really trust. And it's why you always see that behind me there's never, like an envelope or something laying around with my address on it. So somebody would need to know my address. They can't just simply say, oh, there's a guy online doing something. But yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything illegal. So even if they came in, what am I going to do? Get compensation for having the police turn up and be a pain in the ass? Because then you wouldn't have a free hand, would you, Spitfire? If you're constantly having to do that, because you can do that, how are you going to aim your gun? What country's that then, Ryan? Because I know US has the ECH, because that's why the UK... All right, Estonia. Because, yeah, the UK bought these just because America had the ECH and we wanted something like it. So we essentially just bought it, off the Americans. They're not made over here. They buy them, from a US company. Because all the older British helmets are made in Britain. But yeah, I'm assuming it's probably the Danish one then, Martin. I'll get it out for a different stream so people can have a look at it. I mean, if you don't want to bother looking for all my old videos. I think it would be the Danish one, because I'm pretty sure the stamps on it are the same as some of the British masks I had sold as surplus to Denmark and then sold back as surplus. No, Tyler, because handguns are illegal in the UK. That's cool, that M17 guy. Weirdly, though, I think I might have a 44 Magnum cartridge. Inert, of course, because I couldn't legally have a fireable one, could I, being in the UK? Was it 357 or 44? Alright, they're just random 9mm. Don't mind those. I think there's a 9mm, not there? Oh, it's 7.62 by 25mm. Sorry, these are Tokyo rounds. I'm pretty sure, though, on here somewhere, I did have a Magnum round. Oh, yeah, there we go. If it wants to focus. I hope I'm not violating YouTube's gun policy by showing you inert cartridges. Yeah, there's a 44 Magnum. The biggest one, I don't know if it's normal, but the biggest one I've got is this one. 50 BMG. That's the biggest cartridge I've got. I've not got any shell casings, but I know people have had artillery-like casings and used them as umbrella stands before. What thing are you on about for what level of protection? For whoever was on about. Yeah, but sometimes it still doesn't work, Marcus, even when I do that. The autofocus on this webcam is generally done on movement. So as in, wherever there's movement, that's where it thinks it should focus. So sometimes, even if I'm doing that, it will see a bit of your mouth moving, and it will do that. And I think it also has face recognition. So that's where it gets really irritating, when you're trying to hold something up in the foreground, and it sees your face sort of behind and tries to focus. Yeah, well, we won't push it, Ghost Jesus, and that's inert ammunition, you know. Just as replica or deactivated guns should still be allowed according to their policy, but I don't trust them. Yep, that's the UK logic. I didn't make the laws, did I? So yes, you can own a rifle in whatever the hell caliber you want, assuming you get the license. You can't own a pistol. Well, I'm going to be doing a video on that very soon, TechStorm, so we'll find out. But the answer should be yes. I imagine the Soviet MM1, the Shums, they work fine on those because they're forward-facing ones. Maybe the S10 would work, FM12 would work. We'll see. I didn't say about crossbows. I said about like deac guns, because that's the problem. Their thing states guns, but you have to think whoever enforces the ban maybe on your channel might not know what a gun is, or not care because it's a scary looking thing. I personally prefer helmets that cover more of your head. I know some people like the slimmer kind of fast helmets. I mean, it also depends on the protection rating of the individual helmet, because I think they do the thermoplastic helmets now, don't they, in this style one and the fast one. So I'm sure both of those would give a similar level of protection, but personally I prefer bigger helmets. But yeah, obviously thermoplastic is better than Kevlar. Kevlar is better than steel pot. Steel pots are better than ballistic nylon, like the British Mark 6, which might be the only ballistic nylon helmet ever designed. Yeah, I'll try it with the MP5 as well. Some people reckon that'll work, other people don't, so we'll see. Oh, that's cool, Mike. Yep. I was hoping you were coming on, but I didn't know if you were or not. Well, X-rays would go through plastic. So I'm sure they can determine it's there using X-rays, like depending on the intensity of the X-ray. Yeah, I was holding some ammunition a bit earlier in the stream, Mike, and then I said, oh, that's a bit dodgy. I don't know if I should do that, because I wouldn't have got a deac gun, but people are on about cartridges, so I was showing some inert cartridges, you know, holding them like that. No, Tyler, I'd love one, but I think that'd be a very antisocial thing to do, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd be good to have that as an alarm clock, wouldn't it, in the morning, like on some sort of system, so it starts cranking itself when your alarm's due to go off. You know, wake up everybody in your neighbourhood, not just you. Interestingly, there's a factory not too far from us that does the all clear siren on an old air raid siren when the workday finishes. So about 4 to 5 p.m. some days you'll hear an air raid siren, but it's, you know, the flat all clear tone. Because they've got it mounted on like the roof of one of the factories or like, you know, office block building type things. I wonder if I pull that bit will go a bit tighter, won't it, if I do that, but I don't know if I can actually pull anything through in a way that would keep that bit adjusted like that. It's still going to sink down, I think, if I do that. Yeah, I completely agree, Mike. I don't know if you're talking to somebody else there, but yeah, you don't want to risk it, do you? That's the thing. And like you're saying, you don't want to lose all the things where even if you turn out to be right, where you can't appeal it or it takes ages to appeal it or any of that bullshit. The thing I used to hate is when I would listen to music and there'd be a sound on it that sounds almost like a phone vibrating from like, you know, getting an alert. That could be quite irritating where you'd go to check your phone even if nothing was on it. I would rather not go down the path of discussing how can you shoot through armor the police might wear. All right, Soren, we were on about Denmark a bit earlier, strangely, about helmets, weirdly enough. That's interesting enough, that M17 guy. That's a bit tighter now, actually. When I take the helmet off after the stream, I'll have to see if I can adjust it a bit better with the helmet off. Have I seen a Willis Jeep or a Willys Jeep? Yes, I have. To be honest, Tyler, though, I'm getting quite frustrated with these. Have you ever seen? Have you ever heard of this? Because I just get often people who spam those questions every stream, and then, you know, after a few of those questions, it just becomes irritating because all it seems to be is somebody almost like going on Google and then saying, "Have you heard of? Have you seen?" and just reading out a random list. Yes, all right, just don't keep doing it because I don't mind it for a few things where people ask me about certain things, but when the same person, you know, just keeps literally saying, have you ever heard of, have you ever seen? And then it's like, especially when it's stuff like, have you ever heard of a T-34 tank? Have you ever heard of a Sherman? Somebody who's doing that on one stream, it's like, yes, I know most of the World War II famous tanks. Is what better than a World War II helmet Spitfire? If you mean something like this, of course it's better than a World War II helmet. Yeah, you can ask me if I've got something, as long as you already know I don't, you know, as long as you already don't know if I've got it or not, because some people ask me, do you have, you know, and they'll say like a GP5, and it's like, there's one there, you know, or they'll say, you know, do you have something that's obvious I've got one? But yeah, so to explain it to people, obviously the quality of a helmet will completely depend on the individual helmet. But in general, steel pot helmets are the worst helmets. But again, it's going to depend a lot on the individual helmet because they're like the most primitive. Then Kevlar helmets are the next best, but again, it's going to depend on the quality of the helmet. And then these thermoplastic helmets are the things that are very slowly replacing Kevlar helmets because basically you can't shoot through them with standard rifle rounds. The person wearing them would still probably die from the impact, but you can find videos of these helmets getting shot, you know, 5.56, 7.62, everything like that. The helmet, you know, going like that. Yep, you deserve that ohms or ohms or whatever your symbol was. Or is that just the Omega symbol? Because, yeah, you took the bait, didn't you? Right. When you say pen Geigers, do you also mean dosimeter pens? Although this isn't a Geiger counter, but if you mean literally any radiation detecting equipment, I'll only count one of each type of the pen dosimeter. Actually, no, I'll just do all of them. Right, 4 yellow CDV ones, 3 old British Army ones, so that's 7. 1 weird one, I don't know where it's from, that's 8. 2 Soviet ones, that's 10. I'm not going to count the weird little Soviet ones I've got, which I don't have the reader for. So they're just literally like a little bit of metal and plastic. So 10 dosimeter pens. 1 ion chamber. CDV 715 is an ion chamber. CDV 720 is an ion chamber. My British Army one. The MD3 is an ion chamber. So that's 4 ion chambers. Right, Geiger counters. I'm not going to count them all up on the stream. I'm just going to tell you what they are, and then you can count yourself. So little digital ones I've got at the moment, the ones I've got that have turned up. The SOXO1M, the Therapy, the Kajo one, the Chinese 6RB or whatever it's called. I can't even remember the name of that one. 2 CDV 700s with actual Geiger counters, but only one is in good working condition. That one's the spares and repairs one at the back. Oh, with an ion chamber, I forgot the Polish RS-70 radiation alarm. Polish DP75 Geiger counter, Soviet DP5V Geiger counter, mini monitor 510 Geiger counter. Any other ones I'm forgetting? That might be all of them. But I've got a British PDR-82, whatever it's called, on order as well. If somebody modded a grasshopper mask, Peach, I'm not very happy. Also, obviously, dosimeter chargers for the dosimeter pens. So I've got this one, and I've got the old British Army style one. So I've got these two. And I've also got, obviously, it's built into the Polish DP75 Geiger counter. But there's a charger on that. I've also had a DP66M I've done videos on before, but at the moment I've given that to Bart because I said if he can repair it, he's welcome to keep it. Well, Spitfire, these things don't give out radiation, they monitor radiation. Oh no, Mike. I'm going to get angry, aren't I? If you ask me how many radioactive materials I have at this point, I can't actually keep count. They're all safely contained in like steel containers of lead and all that. But yeah. I did up to the other day have a radon detector as well, but the radon detector fucked up, so I had to send it back to Amazon for a refund because there were a lot of negative reviews for it. I thought, fuck it, I'm not going to bother getting them to send me a replacement because I don't want it to go wrong like 2 days out of warranty like all that shit always does. I mean, one explanation might just be I've got too much cool shit that you know, raises the power beyond the level that a radon detector can cope with. But it's not a very well-made radon detector if it can't cope with my level of radon. All right, it's on Twitter chat, is it? Let me have a look, Mike, and be disgusted. If you saw my facial expression, then that will explain it. I mean, I'm hoping most of that is just stuff you could pull off the mask, but yeah, fuck that person. I can't put it on the stream, there's no way of doing it, it's just a picture I was sent. I don't really think much about them, TechStorm. I mean, it's generally just people copy stuff that works. Sometimes they copy stuff that doesn't work, but, you know, if you've come up with imitation is the sincerest form of flattery or whatever they say, you know, if somebody's copying you, as much as you might be pissed off you're not making money from it, you know, you've done a good job. I'll put on the Discord after the stream ends. Yeah, I said to you it was a US 740 in the comment. Stuck some weird metal shit on it, that M17 guy. Shoved a weird Mickey Mouse thing on top of it. It looked like some sort of very hipstery cringe kind of steampunk festival XM28 modification. It might not be any of those things. But if it gives you any solace, I was reading that some hipster retards, do a lot of the steampunk stuff, were buying old radium dials to glue onto like hats and clothing, and like radium steampunk shit, not knowing what radium does. So I guess that can be some solace, can't it? That they're going to die horribly from it. They're literally going to get cancer. If they're like, oh, an old Spitfire dial, I'm going to rip that apart and stick bits on my shirt. Yeah, so if people aren't familiar with radium, just because I love to demonstrate it, because of how hot it is. Right. In this bag here, I have some radium watch hands in one of them, radium paint chippings and things from old damaged aircraft dials. I wasn't ripping dials apart, by the way. I didn't go like, oh, here's a brand new dial in brilliant condition. Bam, bam, bam. I was like, oh, here's a dial I've bought that's falling apart and radium paint's chipping off, so I'm going to, get the radium paint off, so I'm not going to inhale it. And I've removed the back plates from British compasses. You can put them back in, but they're in there, so the radium paint, if it chips off, it's in the bag. So let's put this up to the times 100 multiplier, that, it goes up to 50 millirontgen. As you can see, maybe, hopefully. So it's on times 100, and it's only going to be exposed to gamma radiation. See that? Because the probe's closed. So ready? Here we go. Yeah, imagine wearing that on your clothing 24/7 because it looks cool. They deserve their Darwin Award, in my opinion, but that's my horrible opinion for it. So yeah, I can now max out that mini monitor, not the mini monitor. I can now max out the what's the name of it? My mind's going blank. CDV 700. I can max him out with gamma radiation alone. He's fairly easy to max out with beta radiation, just because obviously lots of things have much higher radioactive decay of alpha and beta than gamma. But yeah, 50 millirontgens doesn't seem a lot now to me. When you start collecting various things, you're like, oh, only 50 millirontgen. Yeah. Yeah, definitely unused, Richard. Otherwise, they're a hazard for a different reason, aren't they? Sadly, I was trying to find if you could get a load of the old radioactive curiosities, because I'd love to get a display cabinet, put them in there, and then kind of say, look at this stupid shit. But Fiestaware seems to be the only one that turns up a lot. I don't know if it was because it was the mass-produced stuff. No, that's okay. That M17 guy, I completely agree with you. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, most of those radioactive curios never really turn up anymore. Because I've actually looked for some, Thorium lamp mantles do, but thorium lamp mantles made for a practical reason, not that they had health benefits. It's just thorium glows really brightly when it burns. But yeah, stuff like Radiafor, the stupid radium drink that makes you fall apart, like Real World's Nuka-Cola. Never seen any of that for sale. I've seen lots of things that have radium in the brand name, but sadly, I think that's just companies, like, oh, radium sounds like a cool brand name, not that it actually has anything to do with radium. But sadly, when I've been looking, I've not been able to find any like radioactive chocolate for sale or suppositories or whatever else. BioNerd did do a video on some sort of like Chinese or Japanese like mystic healing pendant, and it turned out it was actually slightly radioactive. So, again, it's targeting people that believe in, like spiritual magic powers coming off of an amulet. So they're not the most intelligent people anyway, but what they might not know is they're actually getting irradiated by these amulets. I am liking it, that M17 guy. Funnily enough, it's my very best helmet for stopping radiation. So it has that benefit as well. In the video I filmed of it, that won't be live for like a month, when I put check sources near it and measured it with a Geiger counter, it quartered most of the gamma radiation coming through. So the plasticky thermoplastic stuff, because there's so many layers of it compressed, it does cut down radiation quite a lot. So, it stops your brain getting fried by rads as much, which is quite cool. Much better than steel pop for that. I mean, if somebody made a helmet of the same thickness with lead, that might work a bit better, but, you know. Oh, also, if anybody was interested in how the old classic mini monitor looks when you put radium in front of it, I can demonstrate that. Right, so if you're wondering about the gamma coming off of this, that's that. Oh, can I max it out with the gamma on this? Not quite, but yeah. If I just do this, look. Yeah, so the point is, radium, son, it's lots of fun. No, radiation, some radioactive check sources do generate heat, as in stuff, but radiation literally fucks up living cells. I mean, it will fuck up circuitry as well, but if you have plastic or steel, it's not going to do anything to it. If neutrons hit a helmet, neutrons would eventually irradiate the helmet, but radiation itself doesn't like magically do stuff. Like I was saying, some types of radioactive materials, if there's enough of them in one place, they do generate heat as well as radiation. But if you had like molten americinium or something on top of you, I'd be more worried about that than the radiation, because you're probably going to get scalded to death, you know, rather than die later on from radiation poisoning. I like the Mark 7 as well, but this has a more comfortable liner. The Mark 7's liner's all right. And obviously, this gives you better head protection, so I like it more as a helmet for that reason, you know. When it comes to helmets, I generally prefer how much protection they give you over how nice they look as a primary thing. And then, you know, it comes then down to, I think, how comfortable I find them. I've never seen anything like that, Mike. I mean, the only thing I found with Geiger's clicking is a lot of it seems to come down to the speaker you have connected to the Geiger. Because I've noticed, like with, for example, my Soviet DP5V, actually I can demonstrate this to you with this one. So the ticking sounds like this on this speaker, it's quite deep. So that's what it sounds like on that speaker. Then if I put the smaller one on, I don't think the batteries have any charge. Oh, they do. Good. Right. See, it's higher pitch now because it's a small speaker. So in theory, you'd only need one Geiger counter, and then you could run it through an amp where you could mess with the bass and treble, and that would be how you'd get the noise. But see, I prefer the higher pitched clicking that the other speaker does, rather than this one. Go on eBay, search GP7. Oh look, there's like hundreds or thousands of results of various prices. Yeah, I definitely prefer this speaker in terms of you know, like the deeper clicks when it wants to hear some radiation. Is it not down to enough? Thank you, Jeremy. But yeah, I definitely prefer this one with its sort of deeper tick noise to it. Now, I said to Bart, next time I'm over his and I remember, I'll take this Geiger around because he's got so many different guitar amps, pedals and all that. We'll wire this through an amp and we'll record some of the sounds, you know, messing with all the presets and all that. Not even presets, but, you know, just messing with all the different effects you can do on it. I think on this one as well, the voltage modifiers type thing in the case also affects the noise it makes. Not that I'd recommend, you know, turning the voltage up and damaging your Geiger counter just to get a different pitch of sound out of it, but I think a lot of it isn't so much to do with different models of Geiger counter as much as like the speaker system you run them through. Shums, definitely. I don't know. I don't live in America, so how can I tell you what's in Walmart? Anyway, I'll turn that off to preserve battery. The americinium in a smoke detector is not enough to set off a CDV 700 because it doesn't read alpha radiation. So you'll get a slightly higher count than background of the gamma, and that will be it. Anyway, thank you to anybody that's donated today. I always appreciate it. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 people that donated today. But I know one person at least donated €5, so a big thank you to them, because that always helps. Because obviously, yeah, where I've been buying loads of Geiger counters recently, that shit does not come cheap. You know, respirators are a lot cheaper. Oh, I don't know if I said, Mike, but I did order that lighter you linked me to. But I found one on eBay slightly cheaper, so I just bought it using your thing on eBay, because I thought that way you'll still get commission if, you know, compared to any of the other places. But at least I've got an account with eBay set up, you know, and it's a bit easier to do. I mean, how exactly does it work, a knockoff GSR filter? I don't like the GSR full stop. Right. Nuclear radiation is something called ionizing radiation. It is totally separate than radio waves and stuff like that. I mean, well, technically it's on the same thing, isn't it? But ionizing radiation is only alpha, beta, gamma, X-rays. Well, X-rays should come between beta technically. So alpha, beta, X-rays, gamma, and neutrons. Neutrons people won't mention very often because it's one of those things of if you're encountering them in big numbers, you're probably already dead, so I wouldn't worry about it. But they have nothing to do with microwaves, nothing to do with mobile phones or anything like that. Alpha, beta, and gamma come from radioactive, you know, like minerals, materials, or radionuclides. So stuff like uranium, thorium, strontium-90, cesium-137, cobalt-60. Certain cameras will let you see radiation through like decays, like I was demonstrating in yesterday's stream with like stuff hitting it, but with your eye, no, you cannot see radiation. As in, not as in ionizing radiation, no. You can't taste it, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it, but if it's there in big numbers, it will kill you. That's why all the stuff like Geiger counters exist, you know, and why they tick. So you actually know, you know. So let me show you this. So let me just, before I go, turn the speaker back on this, and I'll turn this down to X1, or onto X1. Then what I'll do is let me walk around with it. So you'll get a bit of ticking always from background radiation, but and the whole point to that is you can't see anything when I'm doing that, but it doesn't change the fact that it's there. Strontium, yeah, what Mike said, strontium-90, SR90. A very strong beta emitter. It's a pure beta emitter, which makes doing certain tests very handy with it. But strontium-90 is one of those things where externally, unless it's in massive numbers, it's not much of a threat. Strontium-90 is very dangerous in small quantities if it gets inside your body, because the human body absorbs strontium-90 as though it's calcium. Strontium-90 gets into your bones and you die of leukemia or osteoporosis, or however they call it. So your bones either disintegrate or you die of bone cancer. Children are very susceptible to it. So yeah, strontium-90 is absolutely horrible once it gets inside the body. But stuff like cesium-137 and cobalt-60 are much scarier radionuclides from outside the body. Iodine-131 is another one where it gets in, you're pretty screwed because it gives you thyroid cancer. Iodine-131. So yeah. And I'm just going off, Peach. Are you going to be on Twitch later, Mike? Because I'll definitely watch if you're on Twitch. Well, what's the new filter? This is the captain. Ah, yeah, you mean like radium, Ghost Jesus. Yeah. But yeah, you'd have to have only something like that, wouldn't you? Exactly, because the problem is there's stuff like weight, like cobalt 60 or something you wouldn't see through radioluminescence, and it would be killing you. Oh, so you thought it was today, but it's actually tomorrow. Never mind. I'm sure next week you can do some Twitch streams, Mike. I'll watch next week then. I might, just to let everybody know, I can't guarantee it. I don't know if I'll be streaming tomorrow, but I might be able to stream Saturday night. The reason being that this Saturday I'm working, but Sunday I've got the day booked off work as holiday because I've got a panto rehearsal. So it might mean that Saturday evening I'll actually have the energy to do a stream because it's not like I have to get up really early for work. Do I like mushy peas? Yeah, I like regular peas as well. Multiple people discovered radiation. Which one you on about, Ghost Jesus? Barraquel? What's it? The Curies. But wasn't Becquerel or Barracuel, or however his name was pronounced, the one who put the uranium ore on top of photographic film and found the ore would develop the film? Yeah, the Geiger counter wasn't invented till like the 1920s. Ionization chambers came first. But yeah, the Curies, when they did radioactive sampling, had a really even more primitive system than an ion chamber, which was like, wasn't it to do with like a weight on a magnet? And it was like you could tell the magnetic field with the radiation by using a magnet on an electrical impulse kind of thing. It's a really complicated system. I don't know how exactly it worked, and I've not watched a detailed enough video, explaining it. Just that, sometimes in documentaries on the Curies, they give you a very like quick 10-second write up on the system, and they always have like somebody portraying Mary Curie doing that, and like watching her weight as she does it. But anyway, I'll be off. So thanks everybody. See you, and yeah, then yeah, I'll catch other people streaming if I'm or when I'm around. Might play some more Fallout New Vegas in a minute, I think. So yeah, good evening, everybody, and see you. Oh, FP5 filter. Okay, I know what it is. FP5 is good. At least it's not a GP5 filter that you said is a new filter.